Hey, there are maintenance men going around and knocking on people's doors, and I feel like if I press record, they're gonna just come on up, bust in our room. If they do, at least I'll get it on camera, so whatever. I'm just gonna film. Hello everybody! This is the first video and hopefully a series that will be coming out soon. I've been slacking on the recommendations, mostly because I feel like a lot of the books that I've read, I read a long time ago. I mean, that's kind of a ridiculous notion, but I feel like whenever I do recommendations for sci-fi, like a lot of the sci-fi books I've read might not be as good as I remember them, so I've always been scared to do recommendations as far as like, are they actually good or do I just remember they were good when I was like 16? But I've finally gotten over that. I'm like, whatever, just talk about stuff you like. They'll read it if they really are interested in it. So today I'm coming to you with my first of many recommendations video. This one will be for graphic novels. So the first graphic novel that I recommend that you probably hear about a lot if you're looking to get into graphic novels is Saga by Brian K. Vaughan. Saga is wildly popular. It's a sci-fi series, and if you're like me, I'm not the hugest fan of sci-fi, but this works. It's super crazy, it is super intense. It's a world where there's like creatures on different planets, and those planets are at war, and there's an interracial relationship offset with like galactic war. I think 6 of them are out. There's so many subplots and little other characters it follows. It's just amazing. I'm not a huge fan of that genre, but this captivated me. I will say there's lots of profanity and lots of nudity, so if you are under the 18s, you probably shouldn't be going for this unless you like get it at a library and they're like, don't know about it. But anyway, I really loved it. It's really interesting. The characters are great. Unpopular opinion, I think Marco's really hot, so always good to have in a graphic novel. That's a really, really good series, and that's like the main one that probably anyone will recommend you. The next graphic novel is one that's very underrated, and mostly because it's not like an actual graphic novel with a plot, it just has pictures. Anyway, it's called Here by Richard McGuire. This book I've mentioned in like my favorites of 2015 video. It is a book where you follow one stationary scene, and throughout the entire book it just stays set on that one location. You see throughout history what has occurred on that patch of land. So I know that sometimes you might be sitting somewhere and you're like, I wonder what happened in this exact spot 500 years ago. This book explores that, and so it goes through every time period, even the future, even prehistoric eras, and shows you what all has occurred on that plot of land. And it is so fascinating. Like I said, there's not really any storyline that goes with it, and it is a pretty chunky book, but I think it's incredibly quick, very fascinating, and it made me think. So I would highly recommend that, and it was extremely interesting. This next graphic novel I think I would classify as my favorite graphic novel of all time. It is Blankets by Craig Thompson. Once again, a very chunky graphic novel, but very worth it. This book is semi-autobiographical, so it follows Craig. He's just a teenager growing up. He's from a very Christian family, and he's experimenting with girls for the first time, and it's like a coming of age thing. I just thought it was so relatable. I get so attached to Craig that by the end of the book I didn't want it to be over, even though it was like 500 or 600 pages. I loved it. It's one that I definitely wanted for my collection. It's one that I definitely recommend for you. If the fantasy or sci-fi graphic novels aren't your thing, this is a really good like contemporary realistic fiction one. I think the art is pretty. The reason why I don't really mention art is because I'm not super picky about it. A lot of people say like, oh, this art's really pretty, that's why I liked it, but I really don't notice that type of thing. All of these have good art. I don't know. I'm not an artist and I'm not picky, so that's why I usually don't comment on the art. But this one is like a blue theme, and it was really pretty, and I love the book, and Craig is my actual son. Not really, but I loved it. The next recommendation I have for you is Alex plus Ada by Jonathan Luna. This is a sci-fi series. Once again, I guess I only enjoy sci-fi if it's a graphic novel. But this takes place in a futuristic society where there are robots, and so Alex is our main character, and he has been gifted a robot named Ada. Every time I say Ada, someone corrects me. So, Ada. And it's about him with this thing, and it talks about artificial intelligence. I think it's really, really neat. This has a very easy to understand plot lines. This is one I would recommend for beginners that are just now getting into graphic novels. The art is super simple, and there's no like weird. Sometimes authors get really scribbly when they do their art, which I think is sometimes harder to follow. So if you're a newbie and you would like to get into graphic novels, this one's really straightforward but still really interesting, and it really grabs your feelings. I feel like it's hard sometimes to connect to graphic novels just because they're so short, but this one grabs your attention. It's a trilogy, so there's only 3 of them, so you don't have to keep buying and buying new editions that are like $10 each, and I really enjoyed it. Also, that one is really appropriate. I haven't been really going into how inappropriate some of these are. Alex plus Ada, I say, is pretty clean and comparison to some other ones that I will mention. Next recommendation I have for you is Nimona by Noelle Stevenson. This is one that I would recommend mostly for anyone who gets like the Tumblr humor. This is totally up your alley. I don't know if any of you have ever read Hyperbole and a Half by Ali Brosh. If you have read that and if you enjoyed that type of like cartoonish stick figure, I guess, drawing style, this would really be up your alley. It's about a girl that lives in like a fantasy-ish world and she wants to be this accomplice or right-hand man to this evil villain, and it's just super crazy, super hilarious, and it actually made me laugh out loud, which is something that graphic novels rarely do. So I just think it was so funny. It's like teen humor, I want to say. Again, it's just like Tumblr. It's totally Tumblr in a graphic novel. It's funny. I like that there's a little bit of like anti-hero messages in it. I don't know. It's very different than a graphic novel that you would buy in a series. This one is a standalone and it's just super interesting and different. So that's why I would recommend it to you, especially if, I'm gonna not say the words Tumblr humor again, but check it out if you're into that. The next recommendation I have is a creepy one, and that one is Through the Woods by Emily Carroll. This one is 5 short stories that are told through picture format. I loved it. I wouldn't say that these are scary. I mean, they're more creepy and hair-turning than anything else, but I will tell you, I was scared to turn the page sometimes because I was like just anticipating a jump scare or something, even though it's a book. Like, I think if any book can make me feel that way, it's a winner. This I think was like a 4-star book for me, but I do think this would be a really good one to pick up if you just were in the Halloween mood or something like that and you wanted some creepy stories that are told with really interesting art. It is one that I remember thinking it was good, so if you're into that type of stuff, that's what I would recommend. And lastly, there are some book to graphic novel adaptations that I think are worth mentioning. I am not a fan of book to movie adaptations. That's why I don't ever do videos about which ones I want to be adapted, because I'm like, no. But there are a couple of graphic novels that I think were done pretty well. I think graphic novels from books are fun to read because they're like a condensed version of that book, and if you could read the graphic novel instead of rereading the entire book. That being said, there are 2 that I really enjoyed. The first one is Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, the graphic novel. That one is done so well. I think the supernatural elements of that one are just really interesting when you can see them, because I know the book has some visual elements where the photographs are included, but this makes it all the more creepy and all the more interesting. I think that one's done really well. I know Hollow City just came out in graphic novel version. Have not been able to read that one yet, but I do anticipate I will pick it up soon. And then the other series that I like in the graphic novel format is the Infernal Devices, which I know what you're thinking, or maybe you're not thinking this because you don't know, but I don't like that series. I mean, I like it, but I hate Will Herondale, which is like total unpopular opinion. I'm not going to get into that again because I have had some angry commenters before. But I do like the series in its graphic novel format. I think half of that is just because they're hot and I'm there for it. But it was interesting to read. Again, it's a nice recap without having to read like a 500-page book. The art in these is super interesting. It's like a manga style, and I haven't gotten into manga yet. I'm kind of scared. If you guys want to comment down below and let me know where I could start and how you're supposed to read them, I just have no idea that world, if I even want to get into it. But this has that sort of like Japanese-ish anime style of art to it. It's not anything that would bother me, I guess. I don't know. I just think it was really pretty, and the way it's told. They're pretty chunky graphic novels, so they do go into a lot of detail, and I think it covers it nicely. I think it just retains all the emotions, and I haven't read the 3rd one yet, but I really want to, and I want to know if it's going to be as emotional, which I'm sure it will, because... But anyway, that's all the graphic novels recommendations I have for you all. I'm always on the hunt for some good graphic novels, so if any of you have recommendations, you should let me know. Until next time, hope you enjoyed this recommendations video. Let me know what genres you want next, and I will see you next time. Goodbye!